Hey, everybody. Stu Smith here. Happy Friday. Today, we're going to have a quick little discussion on some of the differences and similarities between seasonal tactical fitness periodization and the block periodization model of that, and talk about some of the creation of it, why it happened, and why I think it's very helpful if you are trying to get into the tactical professions where you very well need to work all the elements of fitness, such as strength, power, speed, agility, flexibility, mobility, endurance, muscle stamina, grip. All of those need to be at the good plus level. None of them need to be great because I would categorize great as being able to be uh, a higher caliber athlete. So, for instance, if you played collegiate sports, for instance, you are probably great in order to make that team in certain areas of physical fitness, but also ability, hand eye coordination, all of those things come into play as well. But there are skills that we get from our athletic history that apply directly into a tactical profession. However, because you focus so hard on a particular sport, there are probably elements of fitness that sport neglects. For instance, working with cross country kids. Obviously, a cross country kid can crush us in the run. I put them under a pull up bar. They get crushed under a pull up bar at the beginning. But to be honest with you, in 5, 6 weeks, they are crushing calisthenics because they are built for endurance and muscle stamina. That is how they have trained in order to be great at what they do. So they can pick up muscle stamina, high rep calisthenics, in other words, really quickly. However, their weakness is strength and power and speed and agility as well. Sometimes I've seen some of the best cross country kids do horribly on agility tests or um, obstacle courses as well, because there's a grip component that is part of that strength function. Same thing goes for a football player. Football player obviously doesn't have the problem with particular strength and power, maybe even speed and agility for that matter, but the endurance and muscle stamina will be the challenge. So everybody's a little bit different in this journey. And if you have been able to do multiple sports, maybe you have reduced some of those weaknesses that come in to this game. But at the same time, there's always something you got to work on, whether it's a technique of swimming, being a better runner, building up your durability in order to run further and faster, building up your durability to add strength, maybe even mass to handle load bearing activities, logs, boats, rucking, fireman carries, gear equipment carries. All of those things matter. So, my program that I've created over the years, like I said, I always tell people I have a way to train, not the way to train. You don't necessarily have to train this way, but this works. And I've been doing it for almost 25 years now, not only with myself, but for all the students that come through this program. They are now a part of this system. Fine tuned it to their strengths and weaknesses as needed. But in general, this system works like this. You're going to focus on elements of fitness that work well together in each season of the year. So, fall and winter, we're going to focus on lifting, a little less running, more load bearing. We still work on cardio with swimming and other non impact cardio activities. Still run, but not as much as we do in the other spring summer running progression cycle. So, our goal is to put on some mass and to put on some strength, maybe even some speed, because we shorten our runs, but we keep the tempo really fast. So you're working on 6 and 7 minute mile pace, but not for multiple miles. for sets of 400s, for sets of 800s. These are a couple of minute runs that aren't going to cause you to lose your gains, so to speak, which I hate that term because if you're worried about losing your gains, you're probably in the wrong profession because let's face it, it's a run a man's game when you're getting through selection. You got to run your ass off, literally. So if you're a big dude, you better be good at running, right? You also better be good at load bearing and other activities as well. It's not just that. Most people who say it's a run a man's game came from my background of, powerlifting strength guy, right? Football player types, because running sucked for all of us. The guys that don't say that are the cross country guys and the swimmers who come in there and just get crushed with boats and logs. They'll say a completely different story. So, anyway, let me share with you what this is. So, as I mentioned, the fall and winter is a lifting cycle. The spring and summer is just the opposite. Cows and cardio, focusing on a nice progression of running, of increasing the repetitions, increasing technique in swimming. So you're really focusing on crushing that PST primarily. But it takes it to another level too. It's going to go into the 4 and 5 mile run times. It's going to go into rucking. It's going to go into swimming with fins for 1 to 2 miles. Um, and other continue on with the high repetition calisthenics. However, there's always an element that you have to maintain a little bit of. So in this program here, there are supplemental lifts throughout the week, maybe upper body lift once or twice a week and a lower body lift once or twice a week on top of all this, just to help you maintain it, throughout the 12 weeks or 13 weeks that there is a spring and the 13 weeks that there is a summer. However, that's a long cycle. If you're doing 26 weeks of any one element of fitness, that's the focus, you're going to have some bumps and aches and pains as that progresses because you're probably not used to that kind of volume continuously. So that's where deload days come in, right? Or deload weeks, even where you cut everything in half and kind of work through it and pick it back up the following week. That's kind of what this is. There's no real deload cycle in here. You have to pull back a week, do a few more mobility days just to kind of help yourself recover when you see yourself starting to feel burned out. This is a generic program. You have to personalize these programs to fit your abilities, your goals, your facilities, all of that. So just remember that, whether you're pulling it from the internet or you're pulling it from a magazine, these are generic programs. They're not personalized for you. Now, the difference between this winter lift cycle and this spring training cycle is the block periodization model works like this. And this is nothing I created. This is, it's out there. You can Google block periodization and understand a little bit more about it, how they apply it in, definitely strength training and powerlifting and things like that, but also, tactical fitness as well. And where I have found it to be very useful is with a 3-week block of whatever your focus is, and then a 1-week block of the opposite. So, for instance, spring training. We just got through doing this one. We did 3 weeks of calisthenics and cardio. Each week progresses on the other. More reps, more mileage. Not much, 10 to 15% each. It's kind of a steady progression, but nothing's linear in this game. You just try to do the best you can. And continue to go up. But after about 3 weeks, you start to see like, okay, little aches and pains are showing up. Joints are feeling a little stiff from all the repetitions, all the mileage. Let's back it down a notch, do what we call the deload lift week, where we focus on less running, only using calisthenics to warm up. We'll do a lift with heavier weights. Sometimes it's not even with weights, it's with weight vests or sandbags. Sometimes it's all day, that workout is in the gym with barbells and dumbbells and kettlebells, things like that. So it just really kind of depends on the day. You do that for a week, and then you come back into 3 weeks of calisthenics and cardio again, start that progression, and people are feeling so much better with their running. They feel like they've licked their wounds a little bit from the running progression, that kind of flat week that stays there, kind of drop it and flat. Like, for instance, this week we were up to about 30 miles a week, but this was a lift week, so we dropped it down to about 18. Still running fast for those 18, but we gave ourselves a little break and lifted a little bit less calisthenics, but focusing more on just kind of recovering the joints, let's call it. Then we move into next week, which will be more calisthenics and cardio. If we do that for 3 weeks, do another week of lifting. We've done that since March, and it has been really good at two things. One, reducing running injuries or just enabling people to kind of lick their wounds that week, right? Really focus on, hey, I'm kind of tight here. It's just more acknowledgement of you're progressing through a very hard training cycle. Listen to your body, right? And pull back a little bit. Not crazy that you're completely resting. You're just changing the focus of the element of fitness. So instead of working muscle stamina endurance to another progressive week, you downshift and work some strength, power, speed, and agility for a week. That is the system that is block periodization. Now, in the winter, I'm not going to beat this one up too much because it's exactly the opposite of what I just said for the spring. The winter one is 3 weeks of lifting deload. So we drop the weights for a week, but we're doing calisthenics, mixing in more cardio. Now, obviously, our running progression in the winter is not that high. So we do more non impact cardio. So a little more swimming, a little more biking, rowing, things like that, just to keep the cardio up. We'll still, during the lifting weeks, we still run a little bit and we still swim. Um, and we also do calisthenics mainly as a warm up and a cool down. But the meat and potatoes of that workout is the lift itself. And there may be some quarter-mile runs thrown in there too, just to push the cardio a little bit, maintain it, because that's really the goal. Our goal is to increase the strength, but still be able to crush the PST or pass test. Or now they've changed it to the IFT. So I've got to change that title, that book. Um, but yeah, that is really in a nutshell the difference between seasonal tactical fitness periodization and the two block periodization models that I also have. I personally, after 23 years of doing it this way and just supplementing additional lifts or additional runs, depending on what cycle I'm in, I'm actually enjoying this model a whole lot more. Not particularly any reason. I mean, I feel like it's a recovery week, but I'm focusing on something else. So I'm not really deloading. I'm just taking a different focus because, once again, this isn't like your typical athlete program that applies as well, but you're still having to get good at other things that you used to not have to be good at, if that makes sense to you, depending on what athletics you're in. Um, so I do appreciate you guys sticking around. Not taking any questions, obviously, since this isn't a live broadcast, but you can always find more information in the description where I will link articles of everything I talked to. In fact, there's 3 articles in there. There's one, seasonal tactical fitness periodization, that you can also find on stewsmithfitness.com. There's 2 others that are on the 2 block periodization models and some of the lessons learned. When I was creating it, in fact, or my original thought was, let's try 6 and 2. So that means 6 weeks progression. No, I'm sorry, 4 and 2. It was a total of 6 weeks. So 4 weeks of a progression, 2 weeks of a deload. And to be honest with you, I found that we did that for 12 weeks. I found that to be 4 weeks was really hard to make a steady progression without kind of deloading a little bit. So that third week made a lot more sense. And 2 weeks was a little too much of the off focus cycle. So 3 to 1 made a lot of sense. And especially if you really do the math in a 12-week cycle, now you're instead of doing 8 weeks and 4 deload, now you're doing 9 weeks of strength or calisthenics cardio and 3 weeks of deload. So it shifted overall in a 12-week cycle. The week of focus added that week of focus in there. So anyway, just to explain some of the lessons learned, and because I test all these things out, not only on myself, but 25, 30 people at a time. And, I look for results. I see successes. I look for injuries that are different than normal. Um, and just overall, like reduction in injuries is a big key factor of one of the other reasons why I like this. But also um, strength gains where I didn't expect to see strength gains. So and calisthenics and cardio maintenance where I didn't expect to see calisthenics and cardio maintenance. So there you go. That's one of the reasons why I personally like the block periodization model. Um, because there's truth, in this fitness world or anything in life, really. If you're not evolving and growing and learning and trying new things, you're just kind of staying mediocre, right? Status quo. You got to push some things and figure out, is there a better way to do this? And if there's not, go back to your other way. But if there is, pull some of the good things out of that and add that to your program. Constantly learning. So, all right. So if you guys have questions, send them to me. You can send them to me at stu@stewsmith.com. If you've made it this far and want to go shopping, check out stewsmithfitness.com. Save 20% using the COMPETE20 code flashing right there at the bottom. So next I'll be back on Monday and Tuesday for a live Q&A. Check those out. Take a lot of questions those days. One day we talk about the workout week and preview, and then on Tuesday we talk about combat swimmer stroke critiques, where I critique them live. We show some good ones, show some perfect ones, and talk you through what I am seeing that makes these good or bad and how to fix them. So check it out. It's up on YouTube. All these are posted up there on YouTube, so check them out. And if you guys have questions, send them. We'll see you later.